Well, hello everyone. Let's talk about the cabin a little bit. And first of all, let's talk about sort of the change in philosophy that I did recently about the compound. So, kind of long story short, as I was developing the tent, not really developing, but sort of reverse engineering like a wall tent, I was just walking outside, and I live in Canada, so our winters are really intense, and particularly this winter was really cold and icy and just a lot of storm, and basically look a little bit like that. And I was like, there's no way I can go sleep in a tent in these conditions. So I think in beginning of February, I started to pivot and start developing a cabin. And that's what I did for the past couple months. But obviously I just added some more stuff like the greenhouse and so on. It's in my last video, but right now we're talking about the cabin. So with that little bit of change of mindset, I decided that having a cabin that can be well insulated, so my priority was insulation and ease of build. That's why I went for a shed style roof. And what I did was to use a very modular approach, which was like 10-foot section. So, and it's good because I did it multi-configuration and I did it modularly, including the deck is modular. So what I mean by modular, technically, so basically this is the same thing, right? I just rotated 20 degrees, but modular in the sense that the wall or the wall section it's basically a 10 by 30, and this is a 10 by 20. Each wall and each wall facade has 7 different types of configuration, which is like a door, a windows. I'm gonna show you real quick. If you go here in the wall section, so basically there's 7, and because I was doing windows, and then I realized, oh, maybe I'm gonna make a small one, I'm gonna make a medium one. Then after that I was like, oh, I can just double them and make like a double small and then double medium. So I did the same thing with the door. So next thing you know, you end up with 7 different configuration. And that goes as well with the facade, so the facade also have interior, exterior, and they have now the facade is not complete yet. This is in my to-do list. I have basically the facade that is complete in there. This is the real render. But yeah, so this is the high wall. Behind it is the low wall, and you get your 2 side wall, and there's 7 configuration with it. And that's how I build it. So everything have their own sub assemblies, and obviously I use corrugated sheet metal, and it might look ugly, but it's for rain collection. Is to make sure that like you get a proper roofing that you can collect rain. You want to keep everything lead free and with the same material and so on. But you can put any types of roofing. Underneath this is basically a sheet of self-sealing membrane. I basically did not do the real sheet, like the real cutting for the sheet and so on, because I think it's more valuable to have the footprint of the. So if I go here and I go in foot, I can know exactly, how many square foot. Okay, this is the 20. So 341 square foot of material that you're going to need. And the rest is 3/4 inch board, or you can have 3/4 inch plywood for roofing, I guess. But there is no plywood in my setup. It's all board, 100% facade and everything. What else? There's a lot actually. Let's go back to the 30. This is basically, I was like, hey, let's set up a workshop, and I was playing around with the modularity by just having everything by block. We can set up a 40-foot if we need to. Eventually we can do that. I just have to add a wall section. So speaking of wall section, again, you saw it here in the mind map. You get your staggered wall, but I also did a standard wall. I think they're all done. That's why the only thing that's missing is the facade, because I was drowning in configuration and just like, I basically did, as you can see, like there's a lot because there's two types of wall. I still need to double check the standard wall because I did not make the cabin. The cabin you see is a staggered wall. So this is kind of my preference. Obviously, this is what I would personally choose, and I model the cabin as such, as the stuff that I would personally want. But as I try to emphasize here, the whole thing is modular. So if you want a double door there, or like no door there, or whatever of these 7 configuration, you can swipe out. And what is going to be important, which is again in my to-do list, but I'm waiting till I finish the entire 3D model before I do this, is that the blueprint. So everything is going to be in the blueprint and all the dimension. It's basic framing construction, right? 16-inch on center, except for the staggered. I try to make everything structurally sound and center, and there's more wood than there should be. It's a little bit over designed. So one of the thing, obviously I like the way I set everything up because everything has their sub-assembly, right? And you can see multiple configuration on the roof and everything else, right? So, but you got the wall, which has the windows. I made my own windows, my own doors, no plywood, nowhere. Everything is, again, dimensional lumber, so 2x4. Windows are 2x3s. A lot of 1x4, 1x6. There's a lot of 1x6. I think the entire facade is 1x6. Yeah, I mean, the skirt is 1x6, 2x8s for the structure. So let's start with the foundation. So I'll go to the foundation. I just finished the skirt. Obviously, there's 2 types, and it's pier foundation. So basically, you get 2 types, right? You get the concrete piers foundation that can be deeper, probably, depending on where you are and your zone and sort of drainage and your permafrost and so on. But I thought it would be a good idea to put logs, but eventually we could put other things as well. I would like to, as I'm doing the clay pit right now, I'm all over bricks and stuff. I want to see if I can put a version of that in brick, having like sort of brick pier, or perhaps even a different types of foundation instead of like a pier one, maybe a wall, like a sort of brick wall or something like that. Okay, so everything is modular, and the roof, so the foundation could be changed without having the entire wall change. The only thing that might change is the height. Maybe we needed to have it higher or lower, but the wall and everything else is going to follow, and then the roof is attached to the wall. So that's how it works, right? So give you an idea, I did a mistake here. I was putting 2x6, and I realized, no, this has got to be a 2x8, right? So I changed it, and when I did, the entire assembly just move up, boop, like nothing ever happened. Basically what it means is like I can just play around. Right? There could be multiple different types, so this is not cemented in, so, but the wall itself, and we want to look at the wall real quick, can be basically changed. Now we look at we did look at the roof. Now we're looking at the foundation here. Like I said, it could move, and it's simple, right? It's 4x4 with 3/4 inch, 2x8, 3/4 inch for the subfloor. And this, I think, is optional, maybe, I don't know. But my idea was like to kind of seal up and the insulation. That was the idea. And then you get your plastic. It's like a big giant plastic tarp, basically. I'm not sure the material. HDPE, probably not. I mean, like, it's basically it's a moisture barrier for a basement. And then on top of this, obviously you would build a wall. Now let's go see the wall. Obviously the skirt is like, just show you right now. My computer is about to freaking explode, and I'm not even kidding. So the skirt is really quite simple. I basically take these 2x4 like this, and there'll be pocket screw right there on the side to hold that piece. I know it's a little weird, like the way it's set up, but the idea is like you'd have like rainwater falling down the siding, the facade of the cabin, and it will just fall down here. And obviously the facade is a little bit deeper. It would fall, the water would fall right there and would steer clear from the foundation, because you see, like, otherwise the water would just drip right on the foundation. So my idea was to just, separate it. And this is like a sort of sacrificial 2x4 you got there. And you get these piece of 1x6, always 1x6. If you wonder like what it is, it's probably 1x6. And this is like a 1-inch foam insulation that's kind of cut weirdly. And that's pretty much it. That's my idea of like a skirt. You'll have these holes. There's too much holes. I mean, these are 1-inch spike that you would put, because this is a 10-foot section. So maybe like, I don't know, 6. So let's just explore some more stuff. We'll go to the wall real quick. So this is the wall, staggered wall. So if I go here like this, I go for, like I said, like I live in Canada, so big winter, big blizzard. I go outside, get my groceries and whatnot, and it's -30. There's a huge blizzard, 4 feet of snow, maybe 3, I don't know. But I'm like, there's no way you'd get comfortable in a tent for like months and possibly a year and a half or whatever. And originally I wanted to put a double wall, because I did the first wall. I did all my standard wall section, and I was like, maybe we can add another one, right? Like you get a piece of wall there, and then you put one right against it. But then I was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Anyways, I went on a research rabbit hole of wood framing and house framing and all that, and I discovered staggered. I discovered other method, which I think I left in, yeah. So these 2 other ones, like I said, I wanted to do the double wall, but there's another one like this. But this one I think needs plywood, and I'm allergic to plywood, so I can't. It's not possible. Yeah, so I did the staggered, because when I discovered staggered wall, I was like, oh, that's even better. These are 2x8, so this is like basically a 7-foot insulation. You get 2 3/4 inch right there. That's the door, by the way. I put some trim and everything looks good. There's even insulation in the door, double layer windows, all in wood, 2x3s. Pretty good. You see here, this is the board and batten facade, and you get like a sort of, I like it because you get like a pocket here, and then you get like a massive pocket here with no thermal bridging except on these big. And I doubled them. The reason why I doubled them, and maybe I could have done, a 2x6 here and then a 2x6 there with less thermal conductivity and so on. But the reason why I did this is because of the snow load. I basically kind of use these as like structural members. Like you glue you stick 2x8 on each other, and it's basically like, a 4x8. And there's like, you got 8 and 6 here, and it acts like sort of a big inner pillars, and they also block the air, so it's better for fire and for a spot like the siding like this where there's no window. I mean, this is when it pays. And even here, like if you see here that you can have like that huge section of like insulation, no thermal bridging. I mean, it is definitely wood intensive. I mean, you can calculate all the all the studs right now. And of course you can sort of diminish that if you, I guess, if you don't want windows, but that's what I went with personally. And I made sure to keep some of those wall without anything so I can have even better insulation. And so as I showed you with the foundation, you get that pocket layer of 2x8, 3/4 inch, and then a 2x8 sandwich in between. So you get that 7-inch, and you get the same thing here on the wall. So you got your 7-inch on the floor, plus you're elevated from the ground. So that's less thermal bridging. And what I did for the roof, and in order to keep the roof, because apparently what I hear was like it's very difficult to heat or keep warm these kinds of roofing style, like shed roofing. And so what I did was to put a ceiling on this. So at the 8-foot mark, I basically put a ceiling, and we can see that, like, basically you get 2x8s that is right there. The ceiling sits right against this. So you get these boards, these, I don't know, rafters, I guess, that sits there. And I'll show you the ceiling right now, but for now, I did a little bit of trim, by the way, real quick. You get these 1x4, 1x4. I want to put a corner here also, by the way. It looks like this, but I want to put a black corner. And I'm going to do a little cut there. It's still not finished. It'll be like a black corner that goes from here to here, and I make sure also that the you see this board is flush with this, so again when the rainwater goes in, it falls in the sort of sheet metal flashing that I showed you earlier. And so I'm not gonna make a version of with the standard wall because they basically have the same dimension. One is staggered and one is not. Actually, in order to make the staggered wall, I had to take the dimension from the standard wall. So everything bleeds from the standard wall. Basically, the standard wall is the parent. And it took a while, but I finally finished. And you can see here, like if I click here, that's all the configuration of the staggered wall. You get, you know, corners with the California corners. You get the centers on the low wall, high wall. There's even a second high wall for a second types of pitch, which I did not do yet because I need to do this little corner there. But it's in the to-do list. But yeah, 13 foot and then 11 foot. That cabin you see is like a 11 foot with a 412 pitch. But I did these section so I can have a second roof angle, which by the way doesn't change the ceiling or anything, but the idea is like all the blueprint and all the wall configuration and all the wall configuration has the same overall dimension, and I make sure of that. So to show you the ceiling, well, we'll show you right there actually. Like that. So, yeah, 3/4 inch, 2x8, 16 on center. I think is it too much? I mean, I don't know. Obviously, the board goes like all the way there and sits on that 2x8 that I was telling you about, and maybe perhaps some hurricane ties and stuff. Also, this is there because otherwise you can see inside the wall, so it's also to block access from the wall. It's sort of, it's like a hole, and the wall is 7-inch, so there's like a big hole, right? And so I think it's needed, but that's the ceiling, and that's the solution for the roof, right? So you get your rafters, you get your high wall, you get your low wall. Rafter sits there, and you get a ceiling. This guy is 1.74 meters. So, and this is 8 foot. Actually, I can show you. If you're really wondering. 748 foot. I thought it was 8. But this is the real dimension though. And damn, it is what it is. I mean, also, you know, I was kind of but you can bump it up a little bit, but not that much. And yeah, I was kind of missing some space, and I guess you can go a little bit higher here. I guess I don't know. Obviously, there's a top plate on, you know, 2x8s everywhere, all around. And this is the triangle. Even the corners are staggered, but I don't know why I did that, because there's no inside. But if you want to turn this into an attic, and this is something I might even take a look at, basically board the entire inside and just create more air pocket here and here. That could help, I think, also. And I don't know, maybe I could put that on the to-do list, like, you know, kind of turn this into a proper attic, and so you can put some storage at least. The cabin is not very, you know, very big, obviously, because, you know, the walls are pretty thick, and that's the idea. So, oh yeah, the other thing is, like, I put some house wrap everywhere, like I did with the membrane, and like I did with, you get the roof membrane as well here. Technically, I can tell you exactly how much square foot house wrap do you need for this entire project, which is pretty good. This is still need to be finished. Again, like I said, there's 7 configuration. They're not all there yet, but there will be, and it's very easy to make them using configuration table. I want to mess around with this, but basically, this is what it is: 3/4 inch. That's on the stud. So you get your stud wall right there, and you get your layer of 3/4 inch, or you can use plywood. And then you get a 1x3, 1x3. And I try to spread them out, like on the top, on the middle, on the bottom. And then you get your board and batten. And that's what it is. Anyway, that's how it looks, guys. Let me just go back here real quick. And that's the house wrap. You just paste. Come on. That's what I mean by, like, each wall section has their own, so I can tell you exactly how many square foot you have per section. And obviously, if there is a door and so on, it would subtract from it. So that's what it is. And we're done, man. I mean, oh yeah, the assembly. So staircase, 2 section, 1 section. Everything is really modular. I think I got a couple of YouTube videos that I inspired myself from, but I think the series on Lowe's, there's like a hardware store in the US called Lowe's, and they have a YouTube playlist on how to make a wood deck, and that's how I got the inspiration. Even they have a website apparently, and you can kind of make your own sort of deck. And anyways, I've watched their videos, and that's how I set up the, especially for the stair, because there's like mathematics involved in designing and building your own stairs. And of course, it's modular and stuff. And I have also the, staircase. I'm going to set up a ramp. That's also in the to-do list to come. Ramp, right now you got single stairs with, railing or not, and double stairs with rails or not. And that's what it is. So again, the blueprint is going to be the nitty gritty, but right now I'm sort of trying to finish as much as I can. As far as I'm concerned, man, like, I'm going to be revisiting all that. We're far from done, but I'm taking a break right now. I'm doing something else in the compound, messing around with bricks and so on. And one of the thing, that's why I want to also make this video as I'm messing around in the background with the clay pit and the brick setup. And in order to save a lot of woods, it would be nice if the facade, and as you saw, the facade is modular, right? So I can make a brick facade, right? It's definitely in even a foundation, a brick foundation, instead of having a wood one. Look at how tight it is, this assembly, man. Really clean, really clean. Everything is as his own thing. Anyways, but yeah, so I'm waiting to finish as much as I can on the exterior before I'm touching the interior, right? So I'm not going to even talk about anything that involve inside. Right now, it's like a blank canvas, and I wanted to keep it that way until I'm really confident that the exterior is done. And the reason is maybe I can start setting up a blueprint, especially for the wall and for the foundation and so on. At least if I can start drafting a couple of them, like most of the wall section, staggered wall section, facades, and even the roof and, you know, the deck. And there's a lot of things that I can put on blueprint right now that would have nothing to do with the inside. So that's the idea. But this is kind of on pause right now. I'll make the video, show it to you. See what you think. Gotta give a shout out to this guy. Is my inspiration, and that's what I mean by like these Pier Foundation was really like made in real life, because I found this guy, I don't know how, but the algorithm gods just stepped from the sky and just like, you want to hear about batten boards and squaring up building? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm making a cabin, so why not? Then I realized this guy had like a whole playlist build of an entire shop, including the roof and everything. Now, I did some modification. Mine is a 10 by 20. So basically I did exactly what he did, but I cut it in half. And obviously I did a shed roof instead of he's using a A-frame, I think. But I think he built it all by himself. So eventually I would like to see if I can go 20. But if I do 20, I'll have to change the roof. So it'll become another roof. But we can still keep the low wall configuration. And that's a good thing when you have everything modular like I did. So technically I can just set up a low wall assembly and have a different roof, which would be A-frame. But anyway, shout out to this guy. He also helped me with the door. I basically did what he did, but without the plywood. And it was very important because all my project has the same door. That was the idea. So, and now it's everywhere. It's here on the hothouse, on all the double doors is basically 2 doors, right? And even the greenhouse is just the same door, but without the boards. And you put a plastic on. That's what I went with. But it was very important. And thanks for that. Give him a sub and a like, and go see. I went also, it felt really good to design something that someone actually built and use in real life. The other things was, so this is what I'm talking about, and you have the playlist. This is the thing. So there it is. Finally, here's the stairs. Particularly right there when the guy is explaining the sort of mathematic that you got for a given rise and risers and whatnot, and the depth also. I was 21 inch, but obviously everything I do in my program is perfect, right? The floor is perfect and everything. So that's why I try to refer you to this video, because it's gonna depend on like your situation. And I respected the same thing, like having 12 inches. I think they're 12 inches apart for the staircase and so on. So shout out to these guys. And if you want to have access to the compound, it's available right here for free. I don't think you have to sign up. You click here, get the zip. Everything is in there. I put the date, but I started to put like 0.1, and because sometimes I do tiny little change and stuff, and I added. So obviously it's going to be a big move if I do like 0.4 and whatever, but it is what it is. So give me a like, give me a sub, and comment on what you think. Would I be able to last an Ice Age in this, you think?